Something happened today that has not happened at any point in this conflict so far. The world's largest natural gas field was struck on both sides in the same day. One side from one direction, the other side from the other direction. Two strikes on the same underground reservoir, and Qatar, a country that was not a direct military participant in this conflict, just confirmed significant damage at its most critical energy facility. Qatar confirmed it, significant damage. Ras Laffan, the complex that sits directly above the single largest natural gas reservoir on Earth. This is not a shipping disruption, this is not a closed waterway, this is physical damage to the infrastructure that produces the energy the world actually runs on. But why did Iran target Qatar's gas field specifically, and not a military installation? And what does the name target list Iran published today tell us about what comes next? Disclaimer: let us start with the sequence of events today, because the order matters. Earlier today, Israeli and American forces engaged Iran's South Pars gas field, one of the largest and most significant energy production sites in Iran. South Pars is the Iranian portion of a massive underground reservoir that sits beneath the waters of the Persian Gulf. Iran responded, and when it responded, it did not target a military installation. It targeted the other half of the same reservoir, the North Field, on Qatar's side of the Gulf. Qatar's North Field and Iran's South Pars are not two separate gas fields. They are two names for two halves of the exact same geological formation sitting beneath the seabed. The same underground reservoir, the same gas, divided politically by the maritime border between the two countries, but physically, one continuous deposit. Qatar confirmed the damage shortly after. Significant damage at the Ras Laffan industrial facility, the complex built specifically to extract, process, and export the gas from the North Field. Qatar described it as significant. That word is important. Qatar is not a country that overstates these things. Its entire economy depends on projecting stability and reliability to its energy customers. And then Iran published a list, a specific, named list of additional energy facilities it has identified as targets across the region. With facility names, with countries, with operators, today was not a random escalation, it was a calculated sequence, and to understand why it matters as much as it does, you need to understand what exactly was struck. Most people watching this conflict have heard of the Strait of Hormuz, far fewer have heard of Ras Laffan, and that gap in awareness is part of why today's events are not yet being processed at the scale they deserve. Ras Laffan is a city in northern Qatar that was essentially built from nothing specifically to process and export the gas from the North Field. Before the North Field was developed, that stretch of coastline was largely empty. Today it is home to one of the highest concentrations of energy infrastructure on Earth: liquefied natural gas processing trains, petrochemical facilities, storage terminals, and export infrastructure that handles a significant portion of Qatar's entire economic output. The North Field sitting beneath it is the largest single natural gas reservoir on the planet. Its geological footprint covers approximately 9,700 square kilometers, an area roughly the size of Qatar itself, and the Iranian South Pars field on the other side of the maritime border is the same structure, adding to the total scale of this single underground resource. Together, this reservoir is estimated to supply approximately 20% of all liquefied natural gas traded globally. For countries that have built their electricity generation, heating, and industrial production around LNG imports, this field is not an option, it is infrastructure. It is as foundational to their energy systems as the power lines running to their cities. The infrastructure at Ras Laffan that processes this gas took decades to build and cost approximately $70 billion to construct. These are not facilities you replace quickly. The engineering required, the specialized equipment, the supply chains, the commissioning process, all of it operates on timelines measured in years, not months. And here is the detail that puts today's events in their starkest context. The North Field is only about 10% depleted. 90% of the gas that was ever going to come from this reservoir is still underground, waiting for the infrastructure above it to process and deliver it. What was struck today was not a resource nearing the end of its productive life. It was the access point for a resource that was supposed to supply the world for decades to come. Tell me in the comments, did you know the North Field and South Pars were two halves of the same underground reservoir before today? Because when I understood what that means for the events of today, the full scale of what happened became immediately clear. Every previous energy disruption in this conflict has been about access. The Strait of Hormuz closure, the shipping insurance withdrawal, the naval danger zone, all of these are serious disruptions. But they share one critical characteristic: they are reversible. If the strait were reopened tomorrow, oil and gas would flow through it again. The resource itself is intact. The infrastructure on either end is intact. The disruption is about the path between them. What happened today is different in a fundamental way. Today, production infrastructure was struck, not shipping lanes, not access routes. The physical facilities that extract, process, and prepare energy for export. Repairing significant damage to liquefied natural gas processing infrastructure is not a matter of weeks. The specialized components required, the engineering expertise, the safety certification processes, all of this operates on timelines that analysts describe as potentially years, and in worst-case scenarios, close to a decade. For the countries that depend on LNG from Ras Laffan, and they span from India to Japan, from Europe to Southeast Asia, this is not an abstract concern. It is the energy security planning they have spent years building, now facing a scenario that those plans were not designed to absorb. One analyst put it plainly today. From an energy perspective, what happened today is dangerously close to a worst-case scenario. Rationing and energy export restrictions may begin appearing in multiple countries in the coming weeks, as the full implications of today's damage become clear. The Strait disruption was serious. Today was a different category of serious. Qatar was not a direct military participant in this conflict. It is a small country of fewer than 3 million people, one of the wealthiest per capita on Earth, precisely because of the North Field sitting beneath its waters. Its foreign policy has historically been built around neutrality, mediation, and maintaining relationships with all sides of regional disputes. But Qatar is also home to Al Udeid, the largest American airbase in the entire Middle East. Thousands of American personnel operate from that base. Operations across the region are coordinated from it. And Iran's stated framework throughout this conflict has been consistent. Countries that allow their territory to be used for operations against Iran become part of the conflict. The sequence today made that framework concrete. Israel and America engaged Iran's South Pars gas field. Iran responded by targeting Qatar's North Field, the other half of the same reservoir. The message being sent was not ambiguous. The symmetry was deliberate. You strike our energy production. We strike the energy production of whoever is hosting your operations. Qatar's position is now one of the most uncomfortable in the region. It hosts the American base that makes regional operations possible. It also sits directly above a reservoir that Iran has now demonstrated it is prepared to target. The pressure on Doha to reconsider the terms of its relationship with American forces operating from its territory is now not theoretical. It is the result of confirmed damage to its most critical economic asset. The infrastructure that produces 20% of the world's LNG took $70 billion in decades to build and damage. At this scale is measured in years to repair. Does that change how you understood what happened today? Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. And here is where today becomes something beyond a single event. Iran did not just respond to the South Pars strike. It published a list, a specific named list of energy facilities across the Gulf region that it has now publicly identified as targets, with facility names, with host countries, with the companies operating them. The list includes the Samref refinery in Yanbu, Saudi Arabia, the Al Hosn gas field in the UAE, the Jubail petrochemical complex in Saudi Arabia, the Chevron Mesaieed complex in Qatar, and Ras Laffan, which was already engaged today. These are not peripheral facilities, they are the backbone of Gulf energy production. The Jubail complex in Saudi Arabia is one of the largest industrial cities on Earth. Al Hosn in the UAE is a major gas processing facility. Chevron Mesaieed is a significant petrochemical operation. And Ras Laffan, as we have already established, handles output from the world's largest gas reservoir. When a military force publishes a named list of specific targets with this level of detail, it is not making a vague threat. It is making a targeting declaration. It is communicating to the facility operators, to the host governments, to the companies insuring those facilities, to the countries depending on their output, that these locations have been formally identified and assessed. The insurance implications of that list alone are significant. Facilities that appear on a formally published target list by an active military force become extraordinarily difficult to insure. And facilities that cannot be insured face operational disruptions regardless of whether they are physically struck. Today, Iran struck one facility on that list. 4 others remain named, the countries hosting those facilities. Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, are now calculating what that means for them. So here is where things stand tonight. The world's largest natural gas reservoir was struck on both sides in the same day. Iran's South Pars from one direction, Qatar's North Field from the other. Qatar confirmed significant damage at Ras Laffan, the facility that took decades and $70 billion to build and handles the output from a reservoir that is 90% full and was supposed to supply the world for decades. Iran then published a named list of 4 additional energy facilities across Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Qatar, with specific names, locations, and operators. Every previous energy disruption in this conflict was about access, closing routes, blocking shipping, disrupting passage through a waterway. All of those disruptions are serious. All of them are also reversible. What happened today is measured on a different scale. Physical production infrastructure, the facilities that actually extract and process the energy the world uses, was struck. Recovery from that kind of damage is not measured in weeks. It is measured in years. The Strait of Hormuz disrupted the path that energy travels. Today, something was struck that produces the energy itself. And Iran's published list today suggests that what happened to Ras Laffan was not the end of the energy infrastructure story. It was the opening move. But what is your opinion on this? Comment down below. If you are curious to find more, then make sure to click on one of the videos you see on the screen. And with that, we come to the end of this video. If you enjoyed the video, then turn on the notifications bell on this channel. Also, please share this video with as many people as possible. Let's get this news out there.